Welcome back to Hollywood Recapped. I'll recap the movie Basic Instinct today. Released in the year 1993. The film opens with an intimate scene in which a charming blonde ties her lover up with a white silk handkerchief. When satisfied, she takes out an ice pick, stabs the man, and ends his life. Detective Nick Caron and his partner Gus Moran are looking into the crime. Johnny Baz, a well-known rock musician who enjoys easy girls, drugs, and music, is the victim. He was spotted leaving a nightclub with a girl at midnight and is known to have passed away around 2 in the morning. After learning the companion of the musician's name, the police arrive and the author of thrillers Catherine Trammell is not home. A bisexual Roxy meets the police in her place and tells them where her lover is. Catherine is discovered by cops at a country home, where they discover that she had been at a nightclub and had been intimate with a musician. But this time, instead of going to his residence, she went home to try to kick his smoking and drinking habits. Nick meets with police psychologist Dr. Beth Garner for counseling sessions. He recently shot and murdered 2 tourists inadvertently, therefore he needs to show his sanity. The detective and the psychologist had an affair not long ago, but that is no longer the case. The police at the station looked over Catherine's records and discovered that she is wealthy and the widow of a well-known heavyweight boxer. Nick discovers the author's book and concludes the crime is an identical replica of one of her novels. The girl is now the main suspect in the crime. The author of the book or someone attempting to implicate her could be the culprit, according to a police analyst who has also read the book. The investigator visits Catherine's country home and issues an invitation to speak with her in the station after understanding that the investigation needs to speak with her. Unbothered, he observes the writer changing and grows excited to see her beautiful body. Catherine acts seductively during the interrogation, getting the cops horny. She mocks the investigation while smoking and disobeying the regulations. The girl has an alibi. Therefore she is able to pass the lie detector test and persuade the police to offer their apologies. When Nick offers to drive the girl home, he learns that she has spotted him staring at her nude body. The author isn't at all ashamed of this and is far more curious to find out who the police officer was who killed 2 harmless tourists. He drives the girl home instead of continuing the topic, and he and his partner go to a bar later. Lieutenant Marty Nielsen interrupts Gus's conversation, igniting a conflict with his partner. Beth stops them and brings Nick to her house, where they engage in an intimate session. Beth says she went to school with Catherine and is very familiar with her. The police learned the following morning that the writer had a teacher when she was a student, who was murdered with an ice pick. Nick follows her in an attempt to learn more about the culprit, but she is able to escape. When he discovers Catherine's car, he finds out that she had been spending the evening with Hazel Hopkins. He tries to chase the girl once again, but the effort is unsuccessful. He looks for information on the enigmatic stranger at the police station. Gus, who arrives at work late, remembers Hazel's case and says that up to the point at which she murdered her husband and 3 children, she was a joyful homemaker. The detective visits Catherine's house the following day and finds newspaper cuttings on her desk that are dedicated to him. Nick feels uneasy as the girl effortlessly smashes the ice with an ice pick. When he tries to learn more about Hazel, he discovers that she keeps in touch with criminals because they provide her with ideas for her detective novels. In an attempt to make Nick her new book hero, Catherine seduces him, but Nick has the strength to push her back. It is evident from Catherine's improper queries concerning the tourist incident that she has some awareness of his personality type. After barging into Beth's office and demanding a confession, Nick finds out that Marty, the psychologist's boss, has passed the information. She was left with no other option after he threatened to dismiss a subordinate. Nick punches the chief after becoming furious, but their co-workers calm him. The detective is suspected when that evening, Chief Marty is discovered with a bullet in his head from a 38-gauge revolver. Police put him on suspension until they investigate. Nick is questioned the following day, but he acts just as flamboyantly as Catherine. In an effort to defend the patient, the psychologist gives the investigator an excuse and an alibi. While he gathered his belongings, Nick finds out that the author's parents passed away suspiciously. When he gets home, he sees Catherine and makes an offer. Catherine shows him one of her first novels, the plot of which is based on her life. While they are talking, the kid kills his parents to see whether he can punish them and goes on to become a wealthy heir. Nick takes Catherine on a date to a nightclub that same evening. He discovers her using drugs in the men's toilet. Roxy lets the pair dance on their own, and they then go to the bedroom. The girl takes a white silk scarf from under her pillow and ties Nick up so he can't touch her throughout the sexual session. Nick later learns that Catherine's friend had been spying on them and that it wasn't the first time because she enjoys sneaking a peek. The following morning, Catherine cautions the investigator not to play games with her and to be careful while they walk on the beach. Nick is certain that he will be able to be impartial and prove her guilt in court despite his crush. He reveals his partner of the events at the club, to their outrage and consternation. Gus understands that she is a threat and should not be taken lightly with, as all of Catherine's known ones are either dead or turn out to be crooks. Nick gets attacked as he makes his way home, and he tries to run her over to avoid being hit. However, the car flew off a bridge as he chased after it. He eventually puts an end to Roxy, who was jealous and has now died. When the detective arrives at the author's home, he discovers that she mourns for her friend and misses her terribly. After consoling her with a bed game, Nick discovers Catherine's unpleasant relations with the girls while she was a student, including the fact that she slept with Lisa Hoberman, who started stalking her. Due to a silly mistake, the detective searches for information on the student is unsuccessful. He checks the evidence once more and learns that Lisa and Beth are one. Nick visits the psychologist at her apartment and demands a confession before discovering that it was actually the other way around. Catherine was the one who followed her and was fascinated on her, imitating her appearance, makeup, and manner of speaking. As they spend time together, the author informs the investigator of a new book that is dedicated to the cop. Since no one wants a happy ending and the book won't sell, so, this is the reason that someone will die at the end of the book. The detective discovers when looking into Beth's backstory that she had a spouse, but both he and Lieutenant Marty were killed in shootings using a 38mm pistol. When he is back at her country home, he unknowingly reads the final pages of Catherine's new book. When the author claims that her book is finished, the imaginary investigator there discovers his partner's death in an elevator, signaling the end of their partnership. The detective meets with Gus in the evening and finds out he's received a call from the girl's classmate, who seeks to discuss their past, shed light on what is obscured by the past, and talk about it. Gus departs for the meeting as soon as they get to the office. Nick wanted to accompany him, but because the detective is suspended, he asks him to wait in the car. As soon as he heads for the building, Nick senses that something is fishy and goes after his partner. As Gus exits the elevator on the 4th floor, an unidentified person wearing a black hooded cloak and carrying an ice pick attacks him. The investigator searches for the murderer after discovering Gus in a pool of blood and runs across Beth in the corridor. She reaches into her pocket and claims to have received a note from his partner. Nick believes there is a gun inside her pocket and shoots her down, but discovers after checking it, that there are many keys in the pocket. Just before she passes away, the girl tells the detective that she really loves him. When police officers arrive at the incident, they investigate Beth's apartment and discover indisputable proof of her guilt. She killed the rock star, the police officer, and her husband, as evidenced by a wig, an ice pick, and a pistol. The detective arrives home, where he is met by Catherine, reluctant to accept the reality of what is happening. This is done by the pair as they talk about their bright future. And doesn't really want children, but Catherine likes to hang out with the detective. And they forget the dreadful events that have occurred and they kiss. Suddenly, it is discovered that an ice pick has been hidden under the bed the entire time. What will happen to the detective and who the real criminal is? The suspense continues. Don't forget to watch the second part of this movie. The movie ends here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below on which movie should I recap next.